Finally, some good news on the injury front. Could Mark Williams make his debut tonight? Plus, some really interesting trade rumors about it has to do with the Ball family. Stick around, find out what it is today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast, and that does include YouTube. There's Doug Branson, as always. He's on everyhornetsboxscore.com. You can find him on Blue Sky now at DougBranson.
I didn't know about this.
BKSky.social. I don't know what it is, but you're on Blue Sky now.
Search my name.
There you go. You're not on Twitter anymore, right? Are you just leaving the space forever?
Well, I'm not. I haven't deleted my account or anything, but I'm just like, it's just not worth it anymore. And it's not even because, look, I'm not a huge fan of Elon. We don't have to get political on here, but like, it's really because every time I log on now, it hits me with some kind of pop-up about 40% off. I'm just over it. Like, I can't do the pop-ups anymore. So I just put my account on ice. If I say anything, it's good. If I say anything, it's really going to be on every Hornets box score or on the subtext where people are shelling out money to hear my thoughts. But occasionally I'll drop some free thoughts on Blue Sky.
Okay, Blue Sky there. Still has a Twitter account, but don't expect much from him. Everyhornetsboxscore.com. That's what you should be subscribing to because he and David Walker are a part of that. You can find him still on Twitter at David B. Walker. And I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Guys, look, some great news. Even with all of the names on the injury report that we just got from Twitter, usually Hornets PR, anytime I see that on my timeline, I click on the tweet and wince out of expected pain. This one, not so much. Mark Williams listed as questionable.
Whoa, cellular! Mark Williams is questionable, baby. Hang the banner. Whoa. Where's the big dub hat?
Get the bit. Do we have a big dub hat? We need to go something bigger than just the big dub hat. Injury report: Mark Williams, left foot, and Daquan Jeffries, by the way, who has been out for quite some time. Both of these guys.
Sound the alarm! Daquan Jeffries, questionable.
Big dub hat. Both are questionable for tonight's game against Philadelphia. I mean, I'm a big Mark Williams fan. I really want him to figure it out in the sense of figure the health thing out. The Hornets figure the health out for him so he can stay on the court. I just don't think that player can fail. If you're that smart, you're that big, and you have that athleticism, I don't think you can fail. Maybe you don't reach your expected ceiling, but that's why I want Mark Williams back so badly. It unlocks so many different things regarding LaMelo, defense, rim protection. This is going to be a new defensive scheme, so Mark Williams has some freedom to go swat some shots into the fifth row. Like, I can't wait for it. I'm hoping that it happens, but even if it doesn't happen against Philly, the fact that we have the questionable designation to Mark Williams' name is a big deal. Let's go with David first. How excited are you that we got the Q next to Mark Williams' name?
Yeah, I feel like this should be a bigger deal, like league-wide. I mean, hasn't he been out longer than any person in the NBA
yes,
ever
that's
in
true.
History or something?
That is literally true. Yeah, that's a fact.
Like any active player. So, yeah, huge. It's just a shame, we can't get LaMelo out there immediately with him whenever that happens. I mean, I guess it's possible, but it doesn't sound like that'll happen timeline-wise. But, yeah, anything moving forward with the injury designation and with anyone on this team is good news, but specifically with Mark Williams because we've just been waiting so long, right? They've just been waiting forever to see him out there with any semblance of an NBA lineup or a starting lineup or whatever. So, I imagine they take it slow to begin with. They kind of easing Nick Richards in right now. And imagine if both of them could play, guys. We are overflow with riches at this point.
It might be game time for Mark Williams, which reminds me, by the way, this episode is brought to you by Game Time.
Game
Time?
Look at that. That is a pro.
Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. What would it mean for you, Doug, if you got to yell Game Time for Mark Williams because he suited up?
It'd be amazing. As amazing as that mug that David Walker just dropped casually into the frame there.
I wanted to mention it. I wanted to mention it too. Yeah, it's a USA old school USA basketball logo for the Audible audience.
Can't put this one in the microwave though, unfortunately. Have gotten some sparks off of this.
A little metallic rim there. That'll burn your house.
That's just the power of the Dream Team in that cup. Exactly. That's all that is.
For the audio audience as well, we have a little rundown that has some text about what the show is going to be about. And I was scared when I saw Mark Williams' back ? That he had hurt his back again. I was like, oh God, no, not the back again. Because that's what we've come to expect from Mark Williams. Walker, I was laughing earlier when you were saying you were a big fan of Mark Williams. Because how can you be a big fan of Mark Williams? You have to be a big fan of the idea of Mark Williams, because we just haven't seen him suit up enough to really become a huge fan of him, I think. And then I love that the Hornets skipped the doubtful designation. I think there's a rule. I think there's a shadow rule now from Adam Silver. The Hornets are no longer ever allowed to list Mark Williams as doubtful ever again. He has to go from out to questionable. You just have to skip over it entirely. But I think you said it well, Walker. I mean, it opens up so many things. When LaMelo does get back from this calf injury, he's going to have not one, but now two, with Nick Richards coming back, two legitimate options to run pick and roll plays with, good screeners, both of those guys. Two players that can chase guys away from the rim defensively, because we've praised Moussa Diabate and what he's done defensively in terms of strip steals. He makes blocks out of nowhere, help side. That's all gravy. And Grant Williams to an extent too when he was healthy. That's all gravy. But none of those guys were scaring players from driving to the rim. And that's where you can limit some of the damage that other teams do in terms of driving kick game, in terms of just making layups. All of that's going to improve when and if Mark Williams can play. And it would be especially great if he played tonight, because there's no Joel Embiid. They're hurting in the front court. Philadelphia is. So it would give them a nice chance to pick up a W.
It would be fantastic. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, you think about how easy it's been in some of these recent games, how easy the offense has looked for the other team, because they're just going to the lane, into the lane at will almost from the opening tap, and continuing to do that throughout the game. And like you said, Diabate and whomever is in there can clog it up, but it's not deterring anyone. And so anytime you can do that and make the offense a little bit more difficult for the opponent, because God knows it's difficult for the Hornets especially if they're not making shots. It's almost impossible. So yeah, I mean, having him back out there, just having Nick Richards, honestly. So if they can have more than one body out there that can kind of deter people from driving into the lane, and maybe a few kickouts, maybe get some steals, just a lot more action for your defense.
Well, and what's interesting, again, the defense is what we're focusing on more. I think that's the right thing to do, but also even offensively, which we've touched on a couple of times. I'm on dunksandthrees.com looking at the estimated plus minus, and his offensive estimated plus minus, it was in the 91st percentile among bigs last year. I mean, this guy was so efficient. Remember the crazy run he went on where he hit 25 shots in a row. Daniel Gafford eventually broke it. But offensive board, very good at that. He had the stretch where he was crazy efficient. I'm interested to see if we got a little bit of a shot in the Mark Williams bag. That's always been talk with him, but offensively, Mark Williams, I think, matters to this team, and we've seen him be in the 90th percentile or higher just last year. Small sample, 19 games, so I don't know how true that is, but it's nice to be up there even in just the 20-game sample. So that's really going to help as well. This offense, maybe score some easy buckets. Just give me a lob threat. Yeah. Give me some nice second chance points, especially with somebody like LaMelo out. You need to manufacture some offense. And if Mark Williams is there without LaMelo, maybe he's a guy that can help do that.
Here's what a sicko I am. Last night I had a dream that Mark Williams took a 3-point shot. He missed it badly, but he took it. And I remember in the dream I was like, oh well, he missed it there, but that was a good shot. So I'm already doing the game notes before the actual event takes place. And looks like that was David's cue to exit, was me talking about Mark Williams taking a 3-point shot. Hopefully we'll get him back. A couple more things on Mark Williams. I don't know if you saw him talk at practice. But I feel bad for Mark Williams. I legit, as a human being, feel bad for him, because he desperately wants to play. There's been this weird trend and look, the Hornets have been injured for 3 seasons now. But there's a weird recent trend of comments that I've seen both on social media and in our YouTube comments essentially saying like guys are just around picking up a check. I don't know where these commenters came from, but like that's just fundamentally not the read that I've gotten on any of these players that have dealt with injuries for the Hornets. That kind of stuff leaks when it happens with Ben Simmons or some other players have kind of gotten that reputation. Joel Embiid has gotten a little bit of that flack but like leaks from league sources. That's never happened with the Hornets. That kind of thing tends to come out. I think Mark Williams desperately wants to be out there, and so I'm happy that he's close. Also, last thing on the offensive side, when your defense doesn't have to expend so much energy to compete, which it has without these centers, it helps your offense because you've got more energy to devote to that end of the floor. So those things are all connected.
Yeah, I'm with you on feeling bad for Mark, by the way. There's going to be the comments immediately, on YouTube saying, oh, Mark Williams is making all this money. Who cares, right? It doesn't matter. He doesn't care. I don't feel too bad for him. All right. Mark Williams wants to play basketball. I know that because I've talked to him. I believe him. I know that because he talks to media. We can see it on social media clips. He had to answer this question again. Remember when we were there with Weston Walker at Media Day, I asked Mark, hey, should fans really be worried? Is this nothing? And he basically said that. He said it's a small bump in the road, and it eventually wasn't that. I don't think Mark expected this. Mark, he didn't have any incentive to lie about, oh, yeah, it's just going to be a small bump in the road. I guess maybe just push down the ill will down the road, but this is someone that thought he was going to play, and then it just kept holding him back. He wants to play, and he's tired of answering that question. You could see it really with me. You could see it with Rod Boone, who asked him that question in the media scrum after practice yesterday. And again, the cynical brain, at least Mark Williams is made available. I don't think that he wouldn't be playing soon if he wasn't made available, and plus the questionable designation already hints towards his not early return, but maybe return here soon. Okay, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
We let David Walker back in the house. Appreciate David coming right back and helping us talk some Hornets. We have Sicko Satchel questions to get to, plus some wild trade rumors. And the Hornets have always been a part of some wild trade rumors, but this one is real interesting. So stick around. We'll talk about that coming up next on LOH. Before we do that, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, we've always appreciated them for helping out the show. It is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with Prize Picks. You can now win up to, again, 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as just 4 picks. And Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action if you join with the over 10 million users that are already signed up right now as we speak. Prize Picks now offers Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this sports season. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Okay, Mark Williams, and final thoughts from you, David. I know you had to bounce real quick. You came back in. Any just finishing thoughts on Mark Williams, offensive, defensive, him coming back? Your expectation for Mark. Does he need to knock off some rust? When should we expect him to have a real impact? All that, I throw it at you, and you do what with it?
Yeah, I mean, if there's not rust, I'd be shocked just because of the length he's been out. But as you mentioned, making things easier on the offensive side too is going to be big. He's just going to make a difference, guys, because this is something this team has been looking forward to. The quicker they can get everybody back, the better. But yeah, a huge boost for Mark Williams. I mean, I guess they're going to have to be a little careful with him. Like I said, go easy and see how it goes. But everyone's got to be excited. So yeah, very excited to see Mark Williams back, and hopefully he could stay out there and maybe split some time with Nick Richards and get some other people back. That'd be nice.
That would be nice. You have New York too on the road after this Philly game, plus Cleveland is your third game from now. So if he doesn't make his debut tonight, it'd be nice to just have some size. Just throw a 7-footer out there against Cleveland, who has two of them, and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. So even if he doesn't play tonight, the fact that Cleveland is so soon on the schedule, it'd be great to have Mark out there. Trade rumors. Things are heating up. Don't know if we've had any report on this, Doug. Maybe you've done a little more due diligence on these reports, quote unquote, than I have. But there are some trade rumors out there swirling around. I know we have the Nick Richards stuff, but we also have some Lonzo Ball stuff with Lonzo putting out a story on Snapchat and saying, I've been waiting for this day, or I always thought this day would come, something of that nature. And it's Lonzo in the Snapchat story, and then it's LaMelo in the Snapchat story. LaVar Ball has been at the Spectrum Center for the last 3 games, or there's a 3-game stretch. I think
he's camping out there.
He's there. LaVar is there. There's the video with Fly Ty, who is like the Hornets in house arena. Where those guys are saying, help is on the way. We got big stuff coming. Help is on the way. I mean, I don't know, man. It seems like this is that.
It's not buttoned up.
So Doug, were you even referencing the Lonzo Ball trade rumors, or were you going with the Nick Richards trade rumors?
Well, I thought, there's Nick Richards, there's some Cody Martin talk, there's some Trey Mann talk, there's some Vasa Micic talk from Michael Scotto, who did this big write-up about, players that are available. And we can kind of put all of that into the bucket. On the Lonzo thing, I would say that Instagram post could have meant a lot of things. It could have been, he's back because he came back from injury this season, and then he got injured again, and now he's back again. So just like those two guys playing in the league together, that could have been that. LaVar historically has done a lot of talking. So, I don't know how much weight to put into this. But if you're the Hornets, it's just sort of looking at this from a franchise perspective. If closer to the trade deadline, if you really felt like this season was going towards capture the flag tank mode, then it wouldn't be like a terrible idea if it all worked out to go to the Bulls and say, we'll take that $20 million contract, to save you some kind of maybe tax bill or something, and we'll deal with that. Maybe it costs the Hornets a second rounder. Maybe they can pick up some picks. Who knows? As part of a larger deal to facilitate a deal, because I think if the Bulls want to get off of any of these contracts, whether it's Levine or Vooch or whatever, they've got to have multiple teams in the deal. I don't think they're going to be able to do a 1-for-1.
Well, Lonzo's on an expiring, just to be clear. So
So that's why it would benefit the Hornets, because they could do the dog and pony show of having the Ball brothers sell some tickets in the back half of the year.
Yeah.
And then you get away with it because you just figure out what you want to do after that.
And what's Lonzo's what's his situation now? I mean, honestly, is he playing? Is he not playing? Is he back? Is he healthy? I haven't really been keeping up, to be honest.
Well, no, Lonzo is not playing right.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Well, no, excuse me.
He just recently returned.
He just recently
returned from an injury that was not related to the injury that kept him out for multiple years.
Oh boy. So bringing on another guy with iffy, shall we say, injury history would be a thing. It would be a move. No. But it feels like an old regime move to bring in another Ball brother. I mean, this would complete the triumvirate, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because they would have had everyone in the building, including LaVar. So I don't know. I mean, a cryptic social media post is, who doesn't love that? But it is interesting that it comes on the heels of LaVar kind of being around and kind of really raising his hand for the first time in the existence of LaMelo's time here.
I would just say, right now, I'm in favor of more Ball brothers entering the Hornet space than I am with more Ball brothers exiting the Hornet space. I mean, I like that idea.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, he did. He just returned. November 27th, he played 15 minutes against Orlando, 22 against Boston, and then yesterday played 13 minutes, 6 points, 2 points, 5 points in those games. So Lonzo is back. So one last Lonzo thought for me. When we had these conversations, I guess a few years back, there were a lot of people against trading for Lonzo because they thought it was just this spectacle of having the Ball brothers playing together, and it didn't make a lot of sense on the court. Completely disagree with it not making sense. Like, I actually think if you gave Lonzo Ball a different name, if he was just John Doe and he had that entire skill set and healthy, like the health thing, if you don't want Lonzo because of his health, yeah, that's totally understandable because he's missed a bajillion games, okay? But if you like the profile of the player, and that is, you're trading for someone that I think actually plays really well alongside LaMelo, secondary ball handler, 3-and-D type of guy that he created himself into. I really like the fit. Again, the problem is the dude hadn't played forever until these last 3 games. So this is a team that has a bunch of injuries already. To go after somebody else, that would leave me scratching my head. But I get the fit idea because I do think LaMelo and Lonzo would be great alongside one another.
He still has game, which is like miraculous after everything that he's gone through to get back on the floor. He still has game, and he's still really good defensively. Like, if you watch the stuff that he's done with Chicago this year, he's still a valuable piece for that team, but he's got an expiring contract, so it comes with no risk for the Hornets. It just, like, it only makes sense in the context of the Hornets not really being all that interested in competing any longer. And that kind of brings us to the first Sicko Satchel question that I have today. And I do need to mention here that I've moved the Sicko Satchel. The exclusive home of the Sicko Satchel is our Sicko Brigade on Subtext. Join subtext.com/Locked On Hornets. You can get a free trial Sicko Satchel every Monday. I'm promising it right now. And then David's out. He's like, I'm gonna go get my question in on the Sicko Satchel. But so that's what I'm gonna do. Join subtext.com/Locked On Hornets. You get to text with me, you get to participate in the Sicko Satchel. And Haley got involved. She is of the 12th Dwight Howard division of the Sicko Brigade. And Haley writes, is there any chance no one gets traded this year? I know the roster isn't perfect, but I'm enjoying watching the chemistry build. Right now, it feels like we're doing sneaky, maybe unintentional tanking, playing competitively, but losing by a few points in the last couple of minutes. So, Walker, really quickly, no chance anyone gets traded, or what's the chance no one gets traded this year?
I think they're pretty low. I actually do think that there's going to be some trades at the deadline, however far before. So, let's just go back to Lonzo, okay? If there really is something here with Lonzo, and there really might not be, by the way, but if there is something with Lonzo, you have to match salary. So you have to trade some players in order to get to that $20 million a year contract that he's currently on, even if it's in the last season. So what about Vasa Micic? Like, that would make some sense if Micic was traded after the experiment where he wanted to go to Denver to play alongside one of his best friends, Nikola Jokic. Also, Vasa was out of the rotation. The only reason he's back in the rotation is because they need some desperate help at the guard position. So now maybe Vasa is that guy. I think that they have some flexibility. They have tradable players. And so for all of them to stay in a Hornets uniform after the deadline, I think the odds of that are slim. And then we have this Nick Richards stuff, Doug, where he's always in rumors of teams being interested in a depth piece at center. And here's the report from Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, who says, quote, several executives around the league who spoke with Hoops Hype believe it would take at least 2 second-round picks to pry Nick Richards from Charlotte. Now, it's funny. The way that is written, it sounds like, whoa, buddy, you're going to have to get rid of a lot. It would take at least 2 second-round picks to get Nick Richards. But also, it's like, only 2 seconds? I mean, I know Nick Richards is a valuable depth piece for us. I don't want to trade him. At the same time, 2 seconds is, if for a depth piece to go contend, that's nothing. Like, that's absolutely nothing.
At least you're setting the floor there. It's at least.
Well, if that gets it done, like if it's at least that, that just isn't. It feels like the buildup, it doesn't match the payoff at the end. Man, if you want Nick Richards, it's going to take you at least 2 seconds. Oh, okay, all right, yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
well, I mean, he's a backup center. Now, the center market is a little thin, and there are teams like the Los Angeles Lakers that are desperate for center help. But I don't know if Nick Richards is the target. But there will be suitors. The question that the Hornets have to ask themselves is, are you comfortable moving your backup center when your starting center is so injury prone? So if Mark Williams proves to be healthy now until the trade deadline, I think that answer becomes, yeah, we're a little bit more comfortable moving Nick. We seem to have a piece here in Moussa Diabate who can do some fill-in role until we can get to the offseason and fully address the center position. But you're a little bit more comfortable there. But if Mark Williams gets hurt again, then you're kind of forced at that point to hold on to Nick at least until this next offseason. There's another interesting trade rumor it's not even really a trade rumor, but just sort of setting the stage for a trade that I want to get to next. And we've got to get to a lot of these Sicko Satchel questions that we've gotten.
Right.
Good response from the Sicko Brigade.
All right, hit the graphic. Coming up next, LOH.
Bees everywhere!
There's a black screen where David Walker should be. Plus, we'll empty the Sicko Satchel. Coming up next, LOH. Before we get to the last segment, I want to tell you this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time?
Game Time?
Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets anymore. Plus, there's plenty of great perks, all in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. When I said there's a ton of great perks, I think of a bunch of Kendrick Perkins just all everywhere in the app when you open it up. There's a ton of great perks. Here's Kendrick, there's Kendrick, and they're all great.
I don't know if that's great.
It's great. It's great perk. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDON NBA. Locked On NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. This episode's also brought to you by BetterHelp. How do you stay cozy during the winter months? For some, wrapping up in a blanket with a mug of hot chocolate, watching a movie with the family. That's the best way to spend the month of December. Therapy is a great way also to bring yourself some comfort that never goes away, even when the season changes. If you're thinking of starting therapy, then give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and then switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Sicko Satchel question number, 2. This is the second one we'll be asking here. Doug, you are the keeper of the Sicko Satchel. You keep it over at everyhornetsboxscore.com. What's the first question you want to lead off the third segment with?
And by the way, I got a text from David. It says, sorry, guys, someone at my ISP is going to have a stern talking to. I don't know what the F is going on. F is capitalized.
Whoa.
I didn't censor him there. He actually just typed the letter F, which he's serious. So we'll get rid of David's box.
Okay.
Goodbye, David.
All
right. Next on the Sicko Satchel, I want to scroll back to something that's related to what we were talking about in the first segment, which is the health of this team. Evan asks, how optimistic are you in this team healthy? There is a good chance in 3 weeks we have a fully healthy roster. Oh, God. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
And we have been really competing with everyone. We just can't seem to finish the job. I imagine that changes with a healthy team. What say you, Walker?
They're certainly better with the healthy team. I think anytime we talked this offseason about what their ceiling was, what their most likely outcome was, it was always with the idea that this would be a healthy team or that they would just suffer normal injury luck, unlucky injury luck, right? Whatever that is, whether it's LaMelo missing just a little bit of time, like just what normal NBA teams go through. The ceiling for me was always hopefully get to a 7 or 8 seed, host a play-in tournament game, and then see if you can use that as a way to get into a 4-game series in the playoffs. I still think that's the ceiling you're talking about when looking at this team fully healthy. But they have been fully healthy. They're losing a bunch of games. We're actually crediting Charles Lee for being as competitive as they are, but yet here they are still losing a ton of basketball games. So even if it's in 2 weeks before you expect everybody back, man, how many games is that? I'm talking about like what, 5, something like that. I mean, that's damage done. 1-4. Are you going through those 5 games? It's still play-in worthy stuff. But Doug, I think the damage is probably already done. Like they're not going to get to a 7 or 8 seed now, in my opinion. So now I think you're just still hoping for a play-in spot, but it'll probably come at the 9 or 10 spot.
Yeah, I mean the East is weak, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any stronger. So there's hope there. The Hornets historically, when they've made the playoffs, it has been because the new version of the Hornets since they came back, it has been due to some pretty crazy second half runs. So that's very possible. And once you get into the play-in, anything can happen. And you've got a new coach, you've got a new mentality that's focused on defense. They've been playing good defense despite the injuries. That's the kind of thing that can make you a little bit more dangerous in the play-ins than they were in their previous 2 attempts, where it was all offense, all up and down, and really no toughness, no physicality, no defense. Okay, so there's the positivity. Here's the negative side of that is the beginning of this season was supposed to be they are healthy. Let's get all these guys together. Let's see what a fully healthy version of this roster looks like, how they play together. We've got some new pieces. Brandon Miller, how do you factor that in? Because he's going to want the ball, need the ball a lot. And then you've got a new coach. And so you've got to mesh all of that together. So the first part of the season, 10, 15 games was supposed to be figuring that out. Well, they've lost that opportunity. So even 3 weeks from now, if and that I think is optimistic, that they get everyone back and that they don't suffer any more setbacks, then you're talking about a period of time that they're going to have to go through of figuring all of that out. Because you saw early on LaMelo Ball pressing, trying to do everything for this team. There's going to be an adjustment back to, okay, I don't have to do that anymore. And so within that adjustment, there's going to be some awkwardness. There's going to be some nights when guys don't shoot well. And so, all of that to say, I think anything is possible, but it certainly is going to be a difficult road for them ahead.
Yeah, and they're 2.5 games back from the 8 spot. They're 3.5 games back from the 7 spot.
And anything is possible in the East.
So maybe I shouldn't say that those days are over, but like there's a bajillion teams right here. I've used that number twice, even though it doesn't exist. There's a ton of teams right there in that mix of, Miami, Indiana, Chicago, Detroit, Brooklyn, Charlotte. I mean, even Toronto has as many wins as Charlotte right now. So like to say, yeah, man, they're only 2 games back. Well, right. So is Toronto, Detroit's even less games back. Chicago, same thing. I don't know. I still think 7 or 8 is the ceiling with this team healthy, but we've seen no evidence, no indication that this team can stay fully healthy. What's the next Sicko Satchel question?
All right, let's do one more question. And the Hornets right now are in the middle of a big homestand for them, which has not gone well. So I've got a homestand question here, and then we'll save the Cody Martin intel and what it means for the Hornets. We'll save that for tomorrow's episode. Also going to recap this Philly game. Should be a good show. But let's go to Chase of the 22nd Brian Roberts Company of the Sicko Brigade. And Chase asks, how do you think we can limit the amount of opposing fans in the Hive? I went to Friday's game against the Knicks and was honestly shocked how loud the Knicks fans' chants were in person. Walker, how do we do it? How do we keep those opposing fans away from the Hive?
Well, I mean, doesn't Steve Ballmer find a way to do this? I forgot how he decided to do this. So
they set up a location very similar to soccer stadiums where they set up a location, they call it the Wall.
That's right.
The new Intuit Dome,
yeah.
Where you can only be a home fan. You can't dress in opposing gear and be in that section, but you can be in every other section.
Okay, so yeah, tickets can only be resold in the Clippers marketplace, and that's a season on the Wall, and it ranges from like 5,000 to 25,000. All right, that's a lot of money. So I don't know how you limit. I'm not sure some of the other ideas. Like we've seen this with Bank of America. You've seen opponent fans when different teams played Carolina and come to Charlotte. Those teams are infiltrating Bank of America Stadium like no other. I think the way to do it is to get a bunch of wins and to become a good basketball team. And the Hornets fans will show up.
Boring.
I do preach this. It is. I do preach this, though. If the Hornets do something fun and they win, Hornets fans do show up. We can go back to the year where they were just above 500 a couple of years back. Teams were here. There was something, or their fans were here. There was something exciting to watch. LaMelo on the floor. At least you were above 500. So if you win, then they will come, but the winning has to happen first.
So here's my creative idea: is you set up a separate bag check line and you have a 20-sided dice. And if it's 10 or over, you roll it. If it's 10 or over, you take one random item from the person. But that's only for opposing fans. If you're a home team fan, you get the boutique treatment. You get the fast lanes like at Disney. But if you're wearing the other team's jersey or any other jersey, if you're one of these weird dudes who comes in like a Dolphins jersey, you get into the line where they roll the dice and you might get your cell phone taken away.
Okay.
So that's my creative idea. The thing is, Walker is right. Winning games is the only thing that solves this. I think Jeff Peterson and the ownership group, they're focused on getting there eventually. I think they have a good plan. Back to Haley's question on the chances of there being a trade or not, I think it's 0 because Peterson is a wheeler and a dealer, and I think he's going to want to make an impact on this team. Now, it might not be bringing players back. It might be bringing assets back that they can use in a future trade. But I think absolutely I would put it at 150% that they are going to make some kind of trade at the deadline. It might be a small one, but they're going to make some kind of move. The final thing I'll say is that the Clippers can do what the Clippers do there to limit things because they have a billionaire owner who can take the hit. The Hornets, unfortunately, they need every single dollar that they can get through the turnstiles. So it doesn't matter what you're wearing as long as you're wearing clothes. And that might, I don't know, they might take you if you're in your birthday suit at this point. They need the money. And so that's just going to be how it is until the Hornets can put some dubs on that record.
Okay. Did you want to do anything else? No more Sicko Satchel. We'll end it there for today.
Well, we're going to end the Sicko Satchel for today, but I'm going to sprinkle these Satchel questions. If you ask a question in the Satchel, now that it's over on the Sicko Brigade, joinsubtext.com/Locked On Hornets 7-day trial, you get the picture. We are going to answer these questions come hell or high water, so I'm going to find little ways to sprinkle them in throughout the week.
All right, Doug is going to be taking care of that for you. Again, go to everyhornetsboxscore.com. Doug Branson, also host of the Locked On NBA podcast.
And you can ask your questions if you know, in whatever kind of clothes as well. I'm not, no discrimination here on these questions. You can do it pants on, pants off, whatever. I don't have to know.
Nobody has to know. In fact, we'd prefer not to know.
You never know if I'm waist up here on the camera. You never know what's going on downstairs with me either.
That's disturbing. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me on WFNZ every weekday
it's
from
the truth.
12 to 3 p.m. Again, we appreciate you making us your first listen. Follow us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Where's David?